how I made this disgusting drain sewer outlet thing for my modular wargaming board. Hi there, and welcome to Goodness Scenery, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you exactly how I made this gross sewery type outlet thing. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's gross and I like it. It's got ladder up the side, it's got all of the gross stuff pouring out, we've got a resin pour down the centre, and best of all, it matches up with all of the other tiles of this modular board. Now, if you haven't seen the series already, then you're in for a treat, because this is the entire board. There's going to be more bits added, but we have a modular river, we have a modular road, we have some cool scatter buildings, and every single tile can match up with every other tile on the board. But how do we make the sewer one? Well, let's get straight into it. So this is a 30 by 30 tile, and we've got two strips of board which are 10 by 30, this is centimeters, and they've got these angled pieces. These were just offcuts from the previous section, but they are kind of 2 on the height and 4 on the length, and then the angle between them makes the rest of it. And then you've got a couple of bits that are 20 mil or 2 centimeters high, just to kind of finish off there, and that is what the base of it is going to look like. Now for the taller bit, I'm using some of my 50 mil foam, so I started by cutting off a huge strip of this. So this is going to be 60 long, which we'll cut it in half in a minute, and it's just the 10 centimeters, no, that can't be right, yeah, 10 centimeters high, that's right. And so I cut that strip off, and then I cut that in half. So the way you do this with a nice sharp knife, and then just gradually building up the depth, and then flipping the whole thing over, and then comes apart nice and easily like that. So you have one bit on the top like that, and then have another bit in front there, but that's going to be cut down to a smaller size. But not going to be cut down straight, so I measured in the angle that I wanted it to be at, and did that on both sides, and then I cut through the angles just like I did before using a sharp knife. Now, if you've seen this series before, you know how I do concrete. So this is very, very simple. So I've got a wire brush, I'm going to go stroking all in one direction, just to kind of really rip up in lines, and then get a ball of aluminium foil and roll it across, and that combination of the two ends up with this kind of very random concrete looking texture, which especially when painted, adds a genuine belief of what concrete could look like. I managed to have my pen the wrong way around there, so that's clever of me. Now here I'm just drawing some lines in here, because I've got like a grid pattern for this board, and then you can use a biro just to kind of add in some more detail. And out of absolutely nowhere, I decided to get a rolling pin and just smack it, and then put the rolling pin back. So if you want to dent in your thing, then apparently I hit it with a ruler. I don't remember doing this, but obviously there is video with proof to show that I did. Now once I've made this hole, then a little roll with the aluminium foil just to kind of make it match up with the rest of it. Now back to our kind of drain exit sewer outlet. I don't know what it's called. I'm going to have trouble naming this video, but you can see what it is. So just using a compass, just drew a hole. I think it was 8, maybe 10 centimeters. Then put a hole in it with some scissors. Now if you've got a hot wire cutter, the way I did it was to post the wire through, then join it up, and then it was nice and easy just to cut round with this. But you could slowly build up the depth with a sharp knife if you don't have a hot wire cutter. Then turn it off before touching the wire, detach the wire, and then you can pull it out, and then you have a hole in the middle of your thing. And then you need to mark out, I mean, you don't have to mark out, but I marked out the bit that I didn't have to do the concrete work on. Now for this concrete on the taller sections, what I did was I just did the wire scraping, but I did it to a kind of a greater depth. I didn't roll the kind of vertical sides with the tin foil, because I wanted it to have that kind of like liney feature that the kind of more creamy beigey coloured concrete tends to have. So it's going side to side with the wire brush, and that's it. And that's the kind of stage we're up to there. So those are all the main constituent parts made, and then from there it's a case of painting it. So all of them had a base coat of this kind of beigey browny colour, and this is trying to get into all of the little details. I decided to not paint the inside of the thing so much, but yeah, the outside of all of it, strong base coat, getting into all of the nitty gritty, and then to add the illusion of depth to this this hole, I painted a jet black circle in the centre of it, just basically eyeballed this and then took the thing and just made sure that it was about right. You know, it doesn't matter if you go a little bit over, so that's what I do with that. The next stage is to do a wet brush with this kind of light grey. So what I do is I go over that, not trying to get into all the little details. Then I'll just put a little drop of black paint on it. You may have seen this in the other sections, and then just kind of spreading this out so you get a real kind of random, some light grey, some dark grey, just to kind of mimic the randomness that kind of you get on kind of worn concrete. From here was dry brushing all of it, so I didn't do the grey layer on the raised sections. I just dry brushed the whole thing, so dry brush the front and the sides and the top as well. And then you'll see in a minute that I will be dry brushing the all of the pavement bits as well. So nothing complicated here, just adding some white paint to a brush, getting the excess off, and this is like a genuine dry brush. So you may have to go back to get a bit more paint on, get the excess off, and keep going back over it, but it really brings up that detail. Now it's time to stick it on. Now I choose to use instant nails for this. This and many of the other products I'm using, you'll find a link in the description for these. Now I use instant nails especially when there's lots of parts, because you get a lot of working time with instant nails. If I was to use a glue gun, it would set almost instantly, so unless you absolutely nail it, pun intended, then you can find that you've glued it in the wrong place. So with instant nails, you put it down, and then you've got a chance to kind of jiggle it and move it around as you need to. It was only at this point here I realised that I'd done all this work on the back section of this board, and most of it wasn't going to be seen. So I'd done a lot of work I didn't have to do, so you don't have to do as much work as I did. Anyway, so I used instant nails for this as well. I mean, this one I probably could have got away with a glue gun, but seeing as I had it out, I thought I would do the same thing. And it's, unless you're in an absolute rush, instant nails is not a bad thing to use. So that is it, construction-wise, mostly complete. And again, to add the illusion of depth, I just painted the this bit black down the centre. I mean, most of it's not going to get seen. It's going to have a load of stuff put in it, and resin as well. Speaking of resin, really important that you dam up your river things as well as you possibly can. So the best way I have found, in multiple different ways that I've done it, is to use acetate sheets, and this is UV resin that I'm putting on. So this is a very sticky resin which gets set off by UV light, so you can leave it in daylight. I recommend that you get a UV torch. So I'm just kind of smearing some on the acetate sheet so it sticks to the outside, then kind of building it up on the inside, and that's along all the edges as well as where you're joining it. Then put some at the back, and then I put some all along the inner edges as well, as you'll see in a second. And that's because resin leaks are an absolute nightmare to deal with, so it's best to be really overcautious than be a bit lapsadaisical about the whole thing, because if you have a resin leak to deal with, it isn't fun. So yeah. Next up, it was time to put the grid, the railings, the bars, whatever these things are. And I used some old sprues, so I found them about the right length, and then sprayed them silver. Next I put some spray adhesive on, and this is just to sprinkle some play sand on top. I was being very, very careful initially about doing this, and then I decided to just chuck it down. Now this is to kind of add the idea of corrosion and rust. So once they were dry, I decided to drop one, and then I picked it up again, and then I put it in the foam like this. So I thought this would be the best way of painting them. Then I'm using something called Typhus Corrosion, which is a citadel technical paint, which adds even more to the idea of the corroded look. So I was quite pleased with how these ended up looking like this, and sticking them in the foam was a great idea in terms of painting them, even if I did paint my finger. Next up, to complete the corroded look, I went for some Riser Rust, which is another, it's a dry citadel paint. So again, just putting some on a brush, getting the excess off, and then kind of dry brushing across the sandy and corroded bit, and they ended up looking like that, which looks like rusty metal bars as far as I'm concerned, so I was very happy with them. Then I added some green. If I'm completely honest, at this stage, I don't really think this green was particularly necessary, and I don't think it added much to the look, so if I was to make this again, I probably wouldn't bother. Next up was to put the bars in. So I took some angled tweezers and I used these to kind of push in vertically because it made it easier to get into the hole, and then put a little bit of super glue in the hole, a little bit of super glue in the top of the bar, and then pushed it down into the hole and then pushed it back vertically up, so it was super glued at both ends. Little bit fiddly, but not the worst thing in the world, and I just ended up doing that with all the rest of them as well. And then on the final one, I decided that it would be good if it was just one that was just sticking out at an angle, just a little bit of extra kind of feature. At this point, I realised I had one too many, and then thought, well, maybe one of them fell out, and just decided to randomly glue it somewhere in the river below, because why not? And this is the stage that we were at this point. Now I wanted to have this some the idea of some flow coming out of this disgusting sewer pipe. So I took some cling film, cut it into little strips, and then I added a little bit of super glue to it, and then pushed it in with the same pliers as before. Now this was quite fiddly, if I'm honest, and maybe I would add the cling film first and then do the bars if I was to do it again. But yeah, just a bit of fiddling around with super glue and tweezers, and it all ended up fine. Just put a few different pieces of cling film in between each of the bars, so there was a nice flow coming out. And then picked, I think this is Mournfang Brown, something like that, so it might have been Gore Grunter. Yeah, Gore Grunter Fur, I think this was a contrast paint. I just painted the cling film brown just so it looked horrible and gross. Then it was a case of putting all of these different types of flock and stuff. So I've got these vines, which is like fake moss, I think it is, and just wrap them around the bars using the pliers, and then cut them into like little pieces just to be just bits of foliage and stuff that is just going to be floating around the river. Then took some, I think this is forest flock, but it's this multicoloured, gross looking stuff. Then I took some actual sticks from the garden and cut them into pieces and just chucked them all in randomly so it looked like a sewer outlet might. And then I did the resin mix, so I'm not going to go into detail on this. I mean, just buy some resin. There's a link in the description for the one that I've got here. I found it to be good value and good quality. And yeah, there's a two-part mix, 1-to-1. Mix it up. I added some green and brown to make it look a little bit gross looking, and just started putting it in. So I wanted the idea of flow to kind of carry on with this. So I got some on the stirring stick, and then was just like kind of chucking it in there to get it dripped off. And then I remembered about this thing called gravity, and decided that it'd actually be a lot better if I just put it at an angle like that. So that's how I did the rest of that. And then just essentially just filled up the river bit. You can't see, it's an absolutely terrible angle I filmed out, but all I'm doing there is pouring some in and then scraping up the side with the stirrer, then adding a little bit more resin at the end. So I'm just kind of eyeballing the depth so it's roughly the same as the rest of them. On towards the final details here, so I've got some chunky paper clips, they don't have to be chunky ones, and then I'm bending up at a corner, then very accurately measuring like 3 plier widths before then bending again. Now these are going to be ladder rungs going up the side of the sewer outlet, so just doing that and then snipping it off. So not a very difficult thing to do, you just need a firm grip and a pair of pliers. And it's as simple as that. So I made, I think, 10 for each side. Some were complete rungs. I did a couple that were kind of just like snapped off ones just to add a little bit of variety. Now I decided they should be 1 centimetre apart, so you just kind of put the ruler up the side and just put some dots on them with a pen, and then made them a bit deeper with the paper clip that I'll be putting in. Now to put them in, I found the best way was to grip firmly with a pair of pliers, line it up, keep it flat, and then just push hard. I found using my hands was I couldn't get a tight enough grip on it, and it was kind of slipping all over the place. So just grabbing with the pliers and pushing it in hard, I found to be the best way of doing it. So I did that across both sides, and then afterwards I just put a drop of super glue. And this, what I loved about this is that you put some super glue on there, and it does 2 things. So it kind of goes onto the metal and it kind of falls inside of the hole, so it glues, but it also kind of creates this kind of stream of ickiness that the paint we're going to be doing in a minute kind of attaches to. So it kind of does 2 things in one. Back to our typhus corrosion, and this was a very, very quick job. I mean, just put a little bit of it on the brush and then put some on every single rung just to make it all look all a little bit rusty. I didn't do the rise of rust on this. I couldn't tell you why. It just didn't feel like the right thing to do, so I didn't do it. So I did this on both sides, and yeah, so you'll see in a minute that there are rungs on the other side as well. Then I took some brown and just like chucked it in randomly just to make it look a little bit dirty, sort of adding more grime towards the bottom where there would have been kind of water build-up. And then did the same thing with some I think it's a skeleton horde. So every single rung hole, I put a drop of that on, and it created this kind of stream going down of where rust and water would have fallen down. It's getting this kind of nice rusty stream. And then I took some green paint, so it's kind of similar to what I did earlier, but kind of made it really kind of watery, so it kind of dripped down in places and, you know, just looked all horrible and grimy. And there wasn't really a huge amount more to do after this. I did some other stuff with some Euphonian Camoshade, and then to finish off I took some dark brown paint. I mean, I tried to dry brush it, but you know, you can see how much paint I had to take off by how much is on that bit of cardboard there. You'll see a better close-up in a minute of what I'm actually really doing with this. So yeah, it did end up being pretty much a dry brush. So this really kind of dirtying up the whole thing, and this was the very final stage of it, just to finish it all off. And I'm genuinely very, very pleased with the results. So it looks horrible, it looks grimy, it looks gross, it's got disgusting stuff coming out of it, and best of all, it matches up perfectly with the other tiles that I've made. So there's road ones, there's river ones, there'll be more buildings in the series coming up soon as well. So if you've liked this video, then please like it. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when new videos are coming up. And if you've got any comments about it, good or bad, and things I could have done better, things I've missed, things you'd like to see on the channel, then leave a comment below. So, this has been Chris from Good Enough Scenery. Please check out the other videos in the channel if you want to see how to make anything else that's here in front of you. But I'll catch you for another video soon.